Let's now talk some serious matters. This week we heard from the Ministry of Education that it was looking for funding to roll out the new O-level curriculum, and according to the Permanent Secretary Alex Kakoza, this is supposed to be the answer to the problems that are embedded in the current syllabus. Now, some have welcomed the curriculum while others are concerned that it may not be appropriate. To connect the dots tonight, we have James Tweheyo, an educationist. Welcome to our studios tonight.
Thank you.
And maybe before we get into our discussion tonight, I just want to remind us of a story that we did yesterday where we looked at how the current curriculum works. And I just want to say that currently we have the curriculum runs is divided into 5 categories, and I'll just point out a few. The first category is science and mathematics. I'm sure you are aware of that. And that includes biology, chemistry, physics, among many other things. We also have the second category that includes English language. If you can see over there on the screen, we have English language. Now, in that category, English has been compulsory. And in the third category, we have geography, history, and religious education. And in the fourth category, which includes vocational subjects, we have fine arts and music, among very many other things. And finally, the last category consists of physical education that has not been examined by NAEP. Now, those, if you're to sum all those, there were about 43 subjects, and they've been reduced to about 8 subjects.
Correct.
Yes. So I want to start from that point. If you had a son or a daughter, and he or she is joining Senior 1, would you be happy that this person is starting with that syllabus, with the current curriculum?
I'd be happy, but I would also be a little worried. Because you are compressing the content of 40 subjects into 8. And that shows that there could be a possibility of some substandard work, of some very little content in some areas, which would leave the child with some gaps in his or her learning. And that's the major cause of worry at the moment. But leave alone that, what are you going to do with all those other teachers that are going to be left redundant? Are we going to retool them? But leave alone that, even with this content, you know, the curriculum is not only a role at secondary level. It should begin with the university and teacher training centers, because these are the people whom we are churning out to come, and so it is a chain. And once you simply squeeze it at O level, then you are causing more challenges, and at the end of the day you find yourself locked up and unable to open. So it would be wise, if there is to be any rollout, it should have started with the teacher training colleges, so that the teachers churned out come to teach the same curriculum. And by the time we have to retool the ones who are there, remember they have a bias. It is very, very hard to teach an old person to use the left hand when he has been right-handed. So these people who are teaching the subjects at the moment will be a little biased, and it will be a little hard for them to adjust the new curriculum. So you should have churned new teachers who will come to support the teachers who are in to get this done. So the rollout should start particularly with the training centers of the teachers, and then come to the secondary schools. Yes. So you talk about the rolling out of the different teachers. Let's talk about the implementation. And even before I get to that question, you see the ministry has said that it felt that it was about time the syllabus was changed. Do you think that it is the right time at this particular point to change the current O-level curriculum? Do you think it's the right time to do so? There is no good timing. All the time is good time for the change of curriculum. The curriculum should be reviewed according to the needs and the time and the environment in which we operate. We are becoming international. We are digital. We have been in analog, for that matter. Now, it is high time we change it. And one thing the ministry should be ready to undertake is to know that any change is always resisted. That's natural. Changes are resisted, and therefore it should be ready for that. How are they going to maneuver to make sure that these changes are accepted by both the teachers, the learners, the parents, and the communities? And remember, we have had some few adjustments, social adjustments, particularly to do with the privatization. And therefore, there will be those private schools that are saying, no, for us, we would rather go with the international curriculum or with the whatever. So there are all those challenges they must look at and make sure that they are prepared to get this matter sorted.
But let's get back to a student.
Yes.
Do you think a student undergoing such a curriculum is going to benefit more than a person that has been studying using the current curriculum?
I think the student will benefit. In all cases, whether with the old curriculum or with the new curriculum, the student will benefit according or depending on the way the teacher delivers. As long as our delivery methods don't change, it will be the same. If we have been teaching science, and we are not teaching it as science, but we're teaching it as a theory of science, then the benefit will not be there. But if we are adjusting in the mechanisms of delivery of the content, because remember the content may not change significantly, although it may reduce, particularly for the art subjects, the science are remaining compulsory. And therefore there may not be changes in content, but there will be changes possibly. That's my wish. There should be changes in the delivery of this science, and there should be changes in the delivery of the arts. But remember, by the way, the cost of this is unbelievable. We have to discard all the old materials. You discard the books which you are using, and you have to buy new books or to print new books. You discard the teachers, some of who are either retiring or who must be retooled, and you have to put in that cost. It will not be so easy. Even the administrators who have been doing this are also rooted into the old curriculum, and they may not be able to provide the required resources to the teacher who is going to implement this. You need also to get these people who are going to be supervising, especially the inspectors, to understand what they're inspecting, because all these inspectors must be also retooled. Some of them will not understand what this is, although they have gone through the exercise of supporting this. But you also need to link up also with UNEB, because the examining body must be ready to examine, for example, physical education. And that's why it has been failing. The other day, the government also put in an element of patriotism. Are we going to put it as part of history and civic education, or what are we going to put? So all of those changes will be accommodated, and it is high time the Ministry of Education first had a clear way, a clear roadmap in this implementation of this.
Let's talk about the time.
Yes.
Right now they're saying that if this curriculum is rolled out, students will be in class from 8:30 to 2:30. Do you think that is enough time for students to cover different topics?
Yeah,
though they have been reduced,
time is sufficient. Time is sufficient. I still insist on the person who is delivering. The way you prepare a lesson and deliver it is determined by the time you have for that particular lesson and the content you want to deliver at the time. So the timing, in my view, is not a problem. After all, in the olden times, some schools would have lessons, double sessions. They would teach in the morning and then in the afternoon. And these students didn't necessarily do as badly as people expect. So it is possible. What is important are the resources required for this implementation, which I highly doubt that the government of Uganda is at this moment ready to provide.
In regards to still time, what happens, what exactly will the students be doing in the afternoon hours that is productive, that will impact on them, that will change their lives to, to solve some of the ongoing problems in the current education
The school
system?
program would provide for that, because there is a lot. Even when they don't have the teacher in that particular class, the teacher should have prepared for them what they should do. There should be games, there should be the other co-curricular activities. There are other activities that are not necessarily delivered in class, which you call the hidden curriculum sometimes. I'll give you a funny example. When you were in a high school, did you expect to have a soch or a dance at the end of the term or at the end of the fourth year? But it was there anyway. So some of those are hidden curriculum activities which can be done, but the teachers must plan them and plan them well to be able to contain discipline, to be able to support the learners, to use the time profitably, and to be able to monitor and supervise them. So
you have been a teacher yourself.
Yes.
You're saying that teachers plan and they do that. You have been in a situation where you interact with the students on a daily basis.
Correct.
Do you think that time will be used fruitful, like in a very fruitful way? Do you think students will be able to learn? Because if I can remember correctly, the afternoon hours were always quite difficult to, you know, to do anything very fruitful. Do you think the students will be able to use this time the right way?
I have only the fear if the teachers are not well organized and prepared to get this done. And the teachers organized are always monitored by their head teachers. So where the head teachers are absentees, because we have schools where teachers are permanently absent, almost, and they even don't know what is happening in the school. They leave the work to the director of studies, they leave the work to one of the deputies or both, and they don't even come to monitor. Where there is no full monitoring, performance will go lowest. Where there is permanent monitoring and planning, performance will come up. And I think it will increase the differences in the learning outcomes of different schools in this country. Yes.
And maybe finally, if you were in a position to advise the ministry or to give them some pieces of advice on how they can change syllabus to make it better or to fit the current situation and also solve the problems embedded in the current syllabus, what advice would you tell them?
My advice would be simple. First, to revise the syllabus of the training of teachers, to make sure that it is focused to these particular core subjects you want delivered. And once you get that done and you have sufficient staff to support in this process, recruit them as new teachers to take on the lower classes and move on with it. By the time they reach the top, they will have supported the existing teachers to change smoothly, and the transition will be smooth. But the moment you bring it in and bump it in, you will be in for a shock.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to our studios tonight.
You're welcome.
That was it in Talk of the Nation. Thank you for joining us.